Welcome back to Vikes with a mic. Tyler, we're back, baby.
We're
And
back.
so is regular season football night.
Oh my gosh, let's go.
As
This
of
week, this Sunday.
now, week one has already started. Thursday night football last night. Sunday is coming up in just a couple days, and then obviously rounding it out with Monday night football. The Vikings are playing meaningful football this week, my man. And we're playing the Bengals in Cincinnati. Zimmer is going to go home close to Zimmer Ranch and hopefully kick his old team in the mouth.
Yeah. I heard he had like a ton of like people coming to the game, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm really stoked, I think, for Zimmer, because I think that this is kind of a look at me now type moment for him potentially.
Yep.
Especially with this roster, which, we haven't really got into it in our any of our episodes thus far, but just how disrespected the Vikings have been by national media this entire offseason. Record predictions that are absolutely horrible, and reasonings being things like the Vikings roster basically hasn't changed, or they're the same team since last year, when like the defense is completely different.
Yep.
Getting a bunch of guys back from injuries. The offense might be better than it was last year. For
an example, like Bleacher Report, they come up with this article trying to like rank the teams in like their spots, like the power rankings, for example. And it's just like the Minnesota Vikings. Same team somehow. They're basically saying it's the same team. Kirk Cousins isn't good. All that kind of garbage that the national media wants to say about the Vikings, but they don't even like include that we have 4 guys on our defensive line that weren't even playing at all last year, like at all. And then Eric Kendricks, who was basically out for the last like 5 games of the season. Anthony Barr, who was out for the season. Like new defensive backs. I mean, Harrison Smith was like the only guy who played. The national media doesn't like pay attention to us. I don't get it. They're just disrespecting us, man. It's crazy. They don't really take a deep dive in on the Vikings.
Right. It's insane. And I mean, we'll get into, I think now is kind of the perfect segue into the last preseason game. We didn't make an episode of the last preseason game because I personally didn't feel like I saw enough in that last preseason game to warrant an entire episode on it. There were so many guys missing. And it was very evident to me that the final 53 was kind of already set to a degree, but it was just going to look exactly like everybody kind of thought, no matter what happened in that game. With the fact that Dalvin, JJ, Adam Thielen, some guys on the offensive line didn't even play again. Kirk, I think, maybe had 2 or 3 drives, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he had 2 or 3.
And same kind of deal on the defensive side of the ball. We still didn't see a bunch of guys that we haven't seen, when you look at Danielle Hunter for like 2 years now. So
no P2 as well.
Right. So this defense come Sunday, this offense come Sunday is going to look a million times different than it did in preseason. It just didn't warrant the possible negativity and even the possible positive comments that were going to come out of an episode like that, when I think that it kind of didn't hold as much weight as we kind of thought it did, especially with the Herb Smith injury that apparently took place.
That was so unfortunate. That was terrible. But
that's the biggest thing I think that came out of that game. That would have been the only thing that was worth recording, was the fact that Herb Smith sustained a season-ending meniscus injury in that game.
I think Zim and Spielman both knew that none of the star players play, obviously, in this week 3 game, because like they already have their spot on the team. It was more so just like the later guys on the 53, more so like special teams and some of those third stringers, just to get them out there, see if they have a shot. Get them some reps in a game against a pretty good Kansas City team. See if they have enough talent to make the team or not. I mean, the game really wasn't much about like star players or anything like that. And that's kind of, it's kind of preseason football in general, but week 3 is always whatever. The last week of preseason is just always whatever usually. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's very unfortunate too, because you get a start to the game like how it did with Patrick Mahomes. hitting up Tyreek Hill for that deep shot touchdown over Rashad Breeland, who killed it this offseason, has been an absolute stud in big time spots, whether it's on the practice field or in those preseason games. But one play and everybody's hitting the panic button, right? When you don't have either of your starting safeties out there, so they're not providing any help, veteran help. That's a play that Harrison Smith is going to keep his eyes on. Like, he's going to be there to make that tackle. And you don't have any of your pass rush out there either. Like, you don't have your top pass rusher in Danielle Hunter. I don't think Everson Griffin, who was very productive in that game.
He looked good.
I don't think he came in until late into the second quarter, I want to say.
Yeah.
So it's so hard to make comments about the preseason. Obviously, we did it with the first 2 preseason games. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but just in case people were wondering why we didn't make an episode on the third one, it's because of that. And quite honestly, there were also some big life things happening as well. If you're watching the YouTube video, you can see I have a new background behind me. I moved out. I'm back in college. Tyler, obviously, you started up school again as well. So lots of big things happening recently that just kind of lead to where we are now. But I think that covers preseason. I think we can finally move forward, which is good, man. Like, I'm excited for the regular season. So let's just
finally
keep rolling with that. I know you wanted to talk about the 53-man roster.
Yep.
We want to get into that, and you can go ahead and break down maybe any shocking things that you noticed with the 53-man roster.
Well, let's start with quarterback, because quarterback's always kind of a controversy position, especially with this football team and this fan base on Twitter. Obviously, Kirk Cousins is your starter. Not surprised. No one's surprised unless Kirk haters are, but I don't get why you would. Your backup's Kellen.
Yep.
Your backup's Kellen Mond, which I like a lot. Jake Browning should not be on this roster by any means. He's not serviceable. I don't get what they saw in him. I mean, I remember when I was watching the Kansas City game, I literally on Twitter, I like, why? I'm asking Rick. I'm like, why? Because they did that Ask Rick thing. And I'm just like, why is Jake Browning even on this roster? Like, come on. But Kellen Mond, I think he's going to be a fine backup. They only need to hold 2 quarterbacks, I think, on this roster. I don't want Sean Mannion on this roster by any means. 3, that'd be just a waste. Such a waste of a roster spot when you have other needs.
I think you bring up a really good point, though, and I was kind of waiting for you to bring up Sean Mannion. So the Vikings signed Sean Mannion to the practice squad. Now, Sean Mannion at 2 points in the season can be elevated to the 53-man roster from the practice squad without signing a contract, to be on the 53-man roster. So a lot of people are looking at this as Sean Mannion's on the practice squad, but he's still the QB2. If they're going into the week and they know that, let's say, Kirk is going to be out because he's unvaccinated.
Yep.
And he has COVID or whatever.
COVID. Close contact, yeah.
They're going to elevate Sean Mannion and put him in before Kellen Mond. But what you're saying is you do not want to see that no matter the case.
No.
Kirk is down.
Yes, Mond in 1,000% over Sean Mannion.
Okay.
Mond is just so much more of an athlete. Like, Sean Mannion's a statue in the pocket. Like, that's what I don't understand. I just don't get why the Vikings coaches are in love with him. Yeah, I guess he's kind of like a coach, but just hire him on the staff then. Make him retire. Like, come on. Don't do this to us,
Yeah, it
just doesn't make sense.
Tough. I mean, if Kellen is truly not ready, which to me kind of sounds like BS at this point, like the progression that he had throughout the preseason, the fact that he's going to keep now getting really solid reps with the 2s at least in practice, leads me to believe that if and only if something does happen to Kirk Cousins, I feel like screw it. Just why not try Kellen Mond at the very least, especially with Cousins' contract situation going into next year and just everything. Like, you have this young quarterback you might as well figure out what exactly it is that you have in. Because, I mean, either he's truly not ready and he learns the hard way, and he's a rookie and he still has several years to figure it out, or he comes out and he like does fairly well, or even better, blows it out of the water, and then you got a great problem on your hands. You got 2 starting quality quarterbacks on your roster. So yeah, it's definitely tough. I don't want to see Sean Mannion in at quarterback for the Vikings, but I do believe that is the plan, to be completely honest with you. So for those of you who maybe didn't understand that move or were wondering, that is the consensus from kind of the quote unquote experts out there right now who believe in that move.
And the thing is, just to finish, like Kellen Mond has gotten better in every single preseason game that he's played in this year. He's getting better by every rep. Like, he's going to get better with more game action, especially in regular season against really good players. I mean, these are the starters on every NFL team. Like, he's going to get better. Like, Sean Mannion, you already know what you're getting out of him. You know, he's not going to do anything else but what you've seen from him on the field. I mean, his ceiling is already there. He's like a 30-year-old, whatever, career backup, whatever he is. Kellen Mond could potentially be a starter. You know what I mean? He's going to get better. You know, he hasn't hit his peak yet in his career. Sean Mannion's already there. I don't get it, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. Definitely agree with you there. 100%. But yeah, I'm glad that we're starting with this, because I think that there's a couple different places on the 53-man roster here, this depth chart, that are maybe not suspect, but interesting to say the least. So obviously running back, Dalvin and Alexander, love both those guys. They have their own different styles of running, and they're amazing. You got your CJ Ham fullback, killer. Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson are your starters at wide receiver. Okay, but here's the funny thing. Backups are KJ and ISM, with number 3 being Dede. Now, Zim did have a press conference today, and I think it was him who said it. He confirmed that Dede is going to be returning punts and will be in there for wide receiver for a few plays at Cincinnati.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Dede being behind the sophomore and the rookie on the depth chart?
I don't mind it, actually, for the first couple of weeks. I think you give KJ his shot at wide receiver 3 because he's impressed and he's looked good in camp. Dede still has that ACL injury or whatever from last season. You got to slow him in. Don't rush him. Yeah. He's on a 1-year contract. Don't rush him. Don't let him get hurt again. I think you take your time with it, kind of what they're doing with a specific defensive player who's out this week, who we'll probably get into later. I'm not going to say his name, but you know who it is. I don't mind it at all. I think having him return punts is great too, because I think who's going to do kicks? Is it Smith Marset, right?
Yeah, ISM will be returning kicks.
I like that too. I like both of that, honestly. Dede's a good punt returner, man. He's experienced. He's done it in college. He did it with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm fine with it. We have experience at it. Last year, we had KJ coming into the NFL in his first year in punt returning, and it was a disaster. Let's actually have somebody who has experience do it. So I'm cool with it. I think you just settle him back in. You know, he's maybe not fully 100% healthy, but I like it.
I think that's the biggest thing that you touched on there, is like this idea of easing him back in, right? Because there's if there's an opponent that you want to have to ease guys back in, or have to miss 1 or 2 guys, it's probably the Bengals when you look at our schedule.
Right.
So yeah, this is definitely a good ease those that are dealing with some nagging injuries back into football mode. But for everybody else, fly around and make some plays. Let's see what you got.
Yeah.
Obviously, tight end with Irv Smith done for the season. Hopefully, if we make a deep playoff run, it'd be amazing if there was some scenario in which he could come back. That would be fantastic. But I'm excited about Tyler Conklin. Conklin's in a contract year. Him and Irv have very similar skill sets. I mean, they do different things, but they have similar skill sets. He's a great blocker. So
really good.
I think that Conklin could have a really good year. I'm excited to see what they do with newly acquired Chris Herndon. I've heard that he already has some packages that they have set up for him this Sunday, so that'll be exciting. And then same deal with Brandon Dillon, honestly. He didn't really do much in the preseason or the offseason that led me to believe he was going to be on the team. But obviously, the injury with Irv, I think, led to an opportunity for him, and he was obviously better than Zach Davidson.
Yeah.
So
Zach
Brandon
Davidson
Dillon,
is disappointing.
heck yeah, man. Like, go out there, use your 4.2 speed, fly down on, punt coverage and make some solid tackles or
special
whatever.
Teamer.
But yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, I think I'm excited for Chris Herndon. I mean, they're probably just going to settle him in a little bit too, let him learn the playbook a bit. But I think he'll have a bigger role in this team later down the line in the season. He'll probably get in a lot of passing plays. He didn't really have a chance in New York with Adam Gase as his coach and Sam Darnold under center. I mean, that's not really a good opportunity for him. So hopefully here,
play well when that guy's your head coach.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a big role in this team, though. He's going to be like a guy where Tyler Conklin was last year, or even Irv Smith was last year. We had Rudolph, and we run a lot of 2 tight end sets, so he's going to have a lot of opportunities. I think he'll shine a lot more though late in the season when they put him out there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I know that Zim mentioned the original idea going into the season was to have Irv out there for those 3 wide receiver sets in there as kind of like that slot guy or that third wide receiver. So do they keep that plan with Tyler Conklin? He's shown that he can make big catches. He's done it many times, like seriously. And yeah, I like Chris Herndon's skill with catching the football. So we know that he can catch it because he scored a touchdown against us actually this preseason. So anyways, moving on, we have the offensive line, which is kind of where we're going to get into a little bit of a tangent here, but we'll start with the tackles. Rashad Hill on the left side, don't hate it.
Yeah.
He's performed well in tough spots before. And the only other option is obviously Darrisaw, who's just not ready. So we need to ease him in. And once he's in there, I think he's going to be a guy that you can kind of stick at that spot for years to come. So don't mess around with that. And then on the other side, we have the now second highest paid right tackle in the league. Will be with the Vikings for another 6 years, including this season. Brian O'Neill out of Pittsburgh. I am stoked for this guy. He deserves all the credit in the world. I think it's a good contract. I know that there's a lot of people that are pissed off at the numbers. I'm not personally. I think that he deserves every penny. And I think that contract is going to very quickly become the number's not going to look as big 2 years from now.
Yeah.
There's going to be plenty of tackles that pass that number soon enough. And the cap is going to only rise now. We're done with this falling cap.
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of issues with it. And yeah, I'm excited for him to be a Viking for a much, much longer time. How are you feeling about the tackles?
I like the Brian O'Neill deal. I think it might have been a little bit of an overpay, but the thing is the Vikings have trouble finding offensive linemen, and Brian O'Neill literally is our best offensive lineman, so you can't really even lose him. There's no way you can lose Brian O'Neill, so you have to overpay at this.
Yeah, right. In this situation, this is like the one scenario where overpaying is the only option. You know what I mean? Because there were talks of him moving to left tackle too, if he absolutely needed to move to left tackle based on what the Vikings needed. But yeah, the best offensive lineman by far. Lock him down. It's necessary.
It's just you had to do it. O'Neill's very good in run blocking. He's been getting better every year with pass blocking, pass protection, honestly. So you can't lose him. We have trouble finding offensive linemen, so you had to lock him up. I don't hate the contract. I like that point though that you brought up with The cap's going to go up. People are going to get paid. Like Tristan Wirfs is going to get a bag, man, in Tampa Bay in a couple of years. That dude he's probably like one of the best already right tackles in football and in his second year from Iowa, which is crazy. So yeah, I don't hate it. I think it's what the Vikings had to do. You had to sign Brian O'Neill. You lose Brian O'Neill, you're screwed because who's going to play right tackle without Brian O'Neill? No one.
Blake Randall.
Yeah, you're going to try to pick up somebody at free agency, and that's not going to go well because you're going to overpay him probably as well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, and then down the rest of the line, our starters at left guard, Ezra Cleveland, obviously center, Garrett Bradbury, and right guard, the man of the offseason, Oli Udoh, my guy. I am rooting for him constantly. I'm so excited to see what he does on Sunday. I think for the first time in a long time, the Vikings have a at least average, if not slightly above average offensive line, or at least potentially,
Yeah.
Bradbury finally has two solid guys next to him. So I think that's going to help his game a lot. I think the biggest weakness is on that left tackle spot with Rashad Hill. And hopefully he only has to hold down the fort there for, however many weeks. And he's not the worst swing tackle out there. Like he can play both left tackle and right tackle pretty dang well. It's very rare that I am really getting pissed off with his play. So, and obviously I've liked what he's done in the preseason too. He hasn't had any issues this preseason. So yeah, backing up them on the interior, we had Mason Cole, who's kind of a swing guy. He can play center, he can play guard, and then Wyatt Davis, who
I like those a lot. No Dakota Dozier, no Trusmia. Get both those guys off the team. I like both these backups. I think Mason Cole's a fine backup. You're not going to put him in. He's going to be a swing guy. He can play center. He can play guard. He can do it. He can do whatever you need him to do as a backup. And then Wyatt Davis obviously has a big ceiling, so I don't mind it at all. Give him time. Maybe Wyatt Davis can be starting. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. Wyatt Davis is just a name you love to see on the roster in general, just because of the potential that he has. And I think the Mason Cole trade, when people first saw that, they were freaking out because they thought that we were trading for him as a starter. I love him as a backup, and I love him as a guy who you're just kind of able to fill a hole with for however many plays. If a guy needs to come off, if he cramps up a little bit, especially at the beginning of the season or whatever. I don't know, man. This is the most I've liked an offensive line in a long time for Minnesota Vikings. But
I'd say since 2017, man.
Yeah, for real.
We had an average offensive line, so yeah.
That was the last decent year.
That was the last decent year. That was the last decent year of offensive line for us. So
yeah, and look where we got. So
yeah.
But that wraps up the offensive side of the ball. So now we get to go to the defensive side of the ball. And again, this is where I think there's a lot of intrigue with some of the decisions that they made. I agree with, I think, all of the decisions that they made, but I know some people that, maybe don't. So defensive end, obviously we are stoked to welcome back the monster that is number 99, Danielle Hunter, at that left defensive end spot. DJ Wonham officially beating out Stephen Weatherly.
There we go. Yep.
Also heard Stephen Weatherly took a pay cut just to stay on the roster.
Wow.
Apparently, at one point, his roster spot was in jeopardy, so he took $500,000 off of his pay so he could stay, and he's still going to probably play quite a bit.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people are kind of up in the air over DJ Wonham and Stephen Weatherly and who should be starting, but I agree with Coach Dre in that DJ just made more plays. It wasn't necessarily that
1,000%
did anything wrong. It's just that DJ kind of seemed to be in the right spot more than Stephen was.
I just think the cause turnover. Stephen Weatherly doesn't really get to the quarterback, I felt, as much as DJ Wonham. DJ Wonham might not have like a higher PFF grade, but I think DJ Wonham's more of an impact type of player. You know what I mean? Right. He's able to make plays, and I think he does it more efficiently than Stephen Weatherly, in my opinion, what I've seen.
And I mean, the fact of the matter is, we're gonna get to two other guys here. These defensive ends are gonna be rotating and are gonna be situational players, depending on what is happening how much they're able to tee off, all that good stuff. And same with the defensive tackles. So after Stephen Weatherly, we have Everson Griffin, who's going to come in for those, obvious passing downs on the right side for DJ. And then Patrick Jones II, who's a rookie that I'm very excited for. I think that he has a ton of talent in front of him that he can learn from. And I truly believe, this is hot take for the next 3 years. Come this time, 2 years from now, Patrick Jones will be starting opposite Daniil Hunter for this Vikings team, and he is going to be a monster. They are both going to be absolute monsters on this defensive line. I love his build. I love his physique. And I think that Dre plus the people in front of him are going to lead to some really great future production for Patrick Jones. I could see it. I mean, he's a late round pick. Dre loves developing those guys. I mean, what was he, 4th round? Like what I saw from him on. He was 3rd. No, he's 4th.
He's 4th, yeah. What I saw from him on the tape, I mean, he's explosive, and then his build, like you said, is crazy. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for him too. Put him on this team as one of the 3rd defensive end, 4th defensive end guy. Hopefully get him in there maybe later in the season, see what he can do on a couple situational plays. But I don't know. He's got a bright future, like Wyatt Davis. A lot of these Vikings have bright futures, man. They've done a good job drafting last couple of years.
Yeah, I think I saw a graph recently. It was the ages, a scattered plot of the average age of each NFL team. And the Vikings are I think they're the 2nd youngest team in the NFL.
Yeah. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Huge, especially for the amount of talent that they have on their roster right now. It leaves you in a really good position to kind of pick and choose and only hopefully get better in the future. So.
Right.
Very interesting. But now we move to the interior defensive line. And, dude, this is where I am just so excited. Beyond excited. Michael Pierce and Dalvin Tomlinson are going to be so much fun to watch on Sunday. I cannot wait to see those big-bodied boys get in there and wreak havoc on this offensive line and this run game. Sheldon Richardson behind them makes me so happy to know that there's starting caliber players behind our already starting caliber defensive tackles. I like Armin Watts and
Armin Watts. Yeah, speaking of Armin Watts, he looked good.
So
Armin Watts looked really good in the preseason, in my opinion. We have 2 really good defensive tackles. Armin Watts looked really good. He looked explosive. He looked like he lost weight. He looked like he was in good shape, man. He looked really good. That's what I thought when I saw him when I watched the preseason games. He stood out.
For sure. Yeah, couldn't agree with you more, man. I don't think there's any worry for me right now at the defensive tackle.
No, that's
just excitement right now at the defensive tackle position. So very stoked about that. But here's where we get into it, right? The linebackers. Yep. So for those of you who don't already know, Anthony Barr, who obviously has been a starter since he was drafted in the 1st round, first pick by Zimmer ever.
Yeah.
Has been a starter on this defense. He is not going to be playing on Sunday. He is out with an apparent knee issue. He practiced once on Wednesday.
Yeah, he practiced Wednesday. Yeah, him and Darius have both practiced.
He has not practiced since, so he has officially been ruled out, which means our starting linebackers will be Eric Hendricks in the middle, Nick Vigil on the left, I believe, and it'll be Blake Lynch on the right. Now,
wow,
I kind of hope that it's more of a Troy Dye, Eric Kendricks, and Nick Vigil situation.
Yeah,
but I don't really know how I feel about Blake Lynch. Heck, I'd even take Chaz Surratt.
I would too, honestly.
But yeah, I'm really not loving the fact that Blake Lynch is so high on this depth chart. I don't think that he did nearly enough in the preseason to warrant such high placement.
Yeah.
So who knows? Obviously I'm reading this depth chart off of the official Vikings.com website, but maybe they just randomly assigned these guys certain spots.
Maybe it's just an error. maybe
right, maybe it's just an error.
maybe Troy will be in. Hopefully Troy will be in at least.
But yeah, I would expect to see more of a Troy Dyer, Kendricks, and Nick Vigil type deal than Blake Lynch. But hey, man, we'll see. That's whoever takes the spot of Anthony Barr is going to be the glaring spot to watch on the defense.
Exactly.
That's going to be where Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals want to attack the most. So if they can make plays early, then that's going to be big for them, whoever it is.
Yep. Yeah.
Anything to add on the linebackers there?
Oh, no. I just think the guy who's going to be out there with Barr and Vigil, because we know those two will be out there, is the guy you circle, is the guy you're going to be watching. Yeah.
Right.
I don't really have anything to add to it. Yeah.
Yeah. You mean Kendricks and Vigil?
Yeah. Kendricks and Vigil. Yeah.
All right. For our corners, starters will be Pete, obviously, and Rashad Breeland. Pat Pete we have not seen in any game action yet in purple, but I've heard good things, obviously, coming out of practice. Zim, the cornerback guru, is saying that he is the best corner on the team right now. So
that's good to hear.
Excited to see what they do with him, how he shows out. He was just announced to be one of the team captains today. So excited to see that on his jersey as well. And then, Rashad Breeland, we already touched on it. He's killed it this offseason. He's made plays left and right. So super, super stoked about that. You're also going to see Mackenzie Alexander out there, I think, a lot when they're in the nickel formation. He'll be that slot corner type guy. And then, sorry, were you going to say something?
Yeah, which I like. And what's interesting on this list is that Harrison Hand, Chris Boyd both had a Cameron Dancer, which is crazy. Like, I think Chris Boyd is like, I think he should be ahead maybe Dancer because that's what the coaches see. But Harrison Hand ahead of Cameron Dancer, that's kind of interesting to me. I didn't really expect that at all.
It's very interesting to me because I think Cam did make a couple good plays in preseason, and a lot of us were rooting for Harrison Hand. I like what he could potentially bring to this defense. I like his skill set. He made plays in the regular season when he was forced into game time scenarios due to injuries and stuff.
Yeah,
but Cam Hansler was this like amazing rookie that kind of came out of nowhere for us last year. So the fact that he's now the last corner on the depth chart just kind of blows me away. And, it screams sophomore slump, obviously. But I hope that he can kind of wake up from it and can start to show and make some plays because he's a really great talent when he just does what he knows he can do.
Yeah, I was just surprised by the order. I can't believe Dancer basically went from our CB1 to CB like 6 or 5, whatever it is. Like, that's just crazy to me.
Yeah,
it really is.
It's absolutely insane.
I didn't really think the sophomore slump was a reality for him, but who knows now?
Who knows, man? It'll be hard to say until we have some real football to break down. So. Last but not least, on the defensive side of the ball is the safety position. Harrison Smith, another guy who recently locked up a massive contract extension. It was a 4-year deal, or
it was. I think it was 4 because there's one added on. There was like one added on. I forgot the detail of the contract though.
I think he's gonna be like 37 or something like that.
36, 37. Yep.
When he's done, but he will remain a Viking for his entire career. The numbers are not bad on that deal either. They get kind of fake once it gets to like the second year from now. So Super excited on him. He hasn't played any preseason games either, but we already know what he can do. He is the best safety in the league. I don't care what the national media says or what anybody else says. Harrison Smith is the best safety in the league. And then you got Xavier Woods, who's a guy that I'm super excited to watch work with Harrison Smith. They've talked so much at training camp about how good the communication is between the two of them, and just like how sometimes all they have to do is look at each other and they just kind of know what each other means. So
That's
I'm really
huge.
excited to see how those guys work in tandem on the football field this year. And then, Josh Metellus and Cameron Bynum, I think that was the obvious choice.
Yep.
They didn't really do anything great in the preseason. I think that Josh Metellus could really be a guy that's still on the roster bubble if any injuries happen or whatever it is. Guys become available that the Vikings want to sign. I think he is a guy that you could easily see get cut to kind of make room on the 53-man roster. But Cameron Bynum's probably locked in there as a rookie. And somebody that the Vikings probably see.
I think Metellus is just on this roster for special teams. He's not a bad special team player. It's not really more so of his safety presence, backup safety presence. I'd say more special teamer. But
I definitely agree.
I'm just not shocked. I'm not shocked to see Metellus and Bynum as your backups. I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised that they both went on the team. So, and the starters obviously are your starters, Smith and Woods. That was kind of what we expected going into this season for sure.
Absolutely. And then last but not least, special teams. Kicker, you got Greg Joseph.
See how that goes.
About that, but we'll see. I'm worried about any kicker that's dressed in purple and gold.
It doesn't matter who it is. If it was Justin Tucker, I'm still nervous.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Punter, new fella, Jordan Berry beating out Skullquit for the job.
Skullquit, Jesus.
I'm excited about Jordan Berry. I like those Australian punters, man. I like what they bring, or potentially bring. So excited to kind of see what he can do. Hopefully we don't see a ton of punting, but
Hopefully we see no punting week one. That'd be nice.
hey, as long as he's a good holder, that's all I really care.
That's all that matters.
That's all I really care about. And then Andrew DePaola, jeez.
You're a long snapper,
Long snapper,
It is what it is.
It is what it is, exactly. I feel like Minnesota Vikings have had some long snapping issues of late. So hopefully Andrew can pull it out for us here. But that's the 53-man roster. Those are our thoughts. So last but not least, let's kind of just get into a quick breakdown of the Vikings versus the Bengals. I can't believe that we're already here, man. We're to real football, finally. Meaningful football for the Minnesota Vikings. So what do you think is the key to the game with the Vikings visiting the Cincinnati Bengals?
What do you want, offense or defense? Does it matter?
Anything.
Anything.
Key to the game. Key to a dub.
Anything. Honestly, establish the run right off the rip of this game. Make Cincinnati try to load the box on you because we know their corners are already bad. And so when we do that to them, our wide receivers are going to burn them. I think our wide receivers will already burn them, just regular in zone or man. But I think you make Cincinnati have to really respect our running game and bring a safety down, and we can just burn them over the top a ton on Sunday. If you establish the run with Dalvin right off rip, they're going to have to respect you, and then you just take your shots. Play action, bring that safety down, throw it over the top. Justin Jefferson's going to go up and catch that football all day. He's going to try to impress his buddy Jamar Chase on the other side. So
absolutely. Yeah, the guy who can't catch the football, apparently.
The guy who blamed the NFL footballs.
I love it. I love what you have to say. I think that is a great key to the game. I think it's a massive part of whether or not they're going to win or lose. If they can find a way to make Jesse Bates feel like he needs to come down and get in the box to stop Dalvin Cook, then Adam Thielen,
and they're screwed.
They're screwed. Tyler Conklin, any of those guys. Heck, ISM KJ, those guys are going to go off. Because, Cincinnati does not have any depth at cornerback whatsoever. So I like your pick, but I'm going to say the key to the game for the Minnesota Vikings starts with their defensive line. They need to stop Joe Mixon from running the ball, and they need to get after this fresh Joey B. Off the injury. But I mean, I definitely don't want to see him get injured by any means. Yeah. That's not what I'm saying. But I want to see him on the ground quite a bit. Yep. I want to see you get in his head. We already know that, like I just said, Jamar Chase, he's been having issues with catching the football this whole offseason, preseason. Apparently it's because it doesn't look like college ball, which I think is just absolutely hilarious. But yeah, man, get in Burrow's face. Stop Joe Mixon from establishing the run. Put them in obvious passing situations.
Exactly.
And that is where Danielle Hunter is going to eat. I think that he's going to have a multi-sack game. I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Pierce gets a sack in this game. And I think that we also see Everson Griffin take the quarterback down in this game. So I think it all starts with our defensive line. And I think that our corners are really going to appreciate that. And our linebackers who are missing Anthony Barr are also going to really appreciate that as well. So, yeah, man. How about a score prediction for me before we get out of here?
I like that. I'm going to go with 31-20. The Minnesota Vikings pull her out 31-20. There's no way this offense doesn't put up 30 this weekend. I mean, if they don't, I'll actually be a little disappointed. But I think we win 31. I think we win 31-20. They'll get some points later in the game. Get like a garbage time touchdown or there. But I think Harrison Smith gets a pick week 1. It's going to be like a tip. It's going to be a tip off one of the wide receivers. It might be Jamar Chase. It's going to be maybe. Harry's going to come down, pick that thing off. Not going to take it to the house, but he'll get the pick. So I think our offense is going to shine. I think Dalvin Cook's going to get 130 on the ground.
Ooh. And that doesn't have anything to do with you having him in fantasy, right? Or, nothing like that. It's definitely not because Dalvin Cook is literally everything that you're riding on for the money in our fantasy league, right? That has nothing to do with it.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, I have a score prediction of 28-10. The Minnesota Vikings coming into Cincinnati and beating the Bengals 28-10. I think that this defense is going to show out. I think that the Bengals are not going to get those 10 points up until the second half. That is my bold prediction for this game. They are not going to get so they're not even going to come close to making it a game. And they're only going to get those points in garbage time. So,
I mean, that's basically what I said. I think they'll get a majority of their points in garbage time.
Oh, you think that they'll get a majority? Okay, gotcha.
Well, I said they'll have 20, but they'll get a couple in the first and then just some in the fourth quarter. Or maybe the second. I don't know. I think they'll get a touchdown, especially in the fourth quarter for sure. But the Vikings, there's no way we don't put up 30 in this game. Like, there's no way. If we don't put up 30, I'm actually going to be disappointed. If we put up 28, I won't be mad. Because at that point, we would have probably been playing conservative, just running the ball up the middle with Dalvin, just trying to kill the clock. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of why I have it. I think 4 touchdowns is a good amount to kind of sink the ship that is the Bengals. So, but with that, we move into regular season football. So we will be back next Tuesday, tentatively, with a breakdown of this game and obviously a preview of the next game, which will be Minnesota Vikings at the Arizona Cardinals. So yeah, we're super stoked for it, man. I can't believe it. I just cannot believe that we're back in regular season form already. I'm so stoked. If you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to Vikes with a Mic on YouTube. You can support the podcast in any way, shape, or form you can. You can listen to all the episodes archived at our website at www.vikeswithamic.com. With that, we will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, Skol.